Hello and welcome back to the Stateside Soccer Show. I'm not your host, Logan Stump, and that is the host, Jordan Wiegand. Jordan is going to take it to the back burner a little bit this episode because he is feeling a little bit, whoa, we switched, that was fun. But no, he's going to take the back burner a little bit, guys, because he's under the weather. Jordan, I'm afraid that you got everybody sick, to be honest, because I've heard like Matt's not feeling great. I'm not.
Oh, is he
great.
not?
Yeah.
Oh, dang.
I think you've been the issue.
I don't think it's me then. I think it's everyone at the wedding.
Well,
I mean, probably the issue then.
I guess that might be it. But yeah, no, we're back with another episode today. So Jordan, bear with me. I know this is going to be a lot of judgment thrown my way as far as hosting duties, but we are excited, Jordan, because we do have our guest on from Ball Watching, a St. Louis City SC podcast. I got to get through that title. But we're excited to have Jake and Justin back on. I think, Jordan, they on Extra Time, they started going City because you cannot say that, I think, in an article, or they actually tell people no, you need to capitalize City. I guess we'll get Justin and Jake's take. Too many J's in this episode. But Jordan, how you doing besides being sick?
That sums it up, I guess. I'm sick. It was nice seeing you. It was nice seeing you in person again. So that was
besides almost running out of gas, which we can fill our listeners in on a later date when we have more time. But we do want to get Jake and Justin on because they are sitting in the cockpit, and I guess this would be producer Anders for Extra Time. They kind of just sit in the shadows before we bring them on. But yeah, Jordan, let's bring on our guests. Let's talk some St. Louis City guys. How you doing?
Phenomenal.
Good. How are you?
Living the dream. I think it's warm here in Orlando, where I currently am, but I don't know how is
you wouldn't know that though, because he complained all yesterday at the Champions League game. It's cold. I'm cold. I'm like, it's 60 degrees up here. Is like 40. Relax.
It's not fair though, Jordan. They put so outside the press box, they had us sitting in an auxiliary press because we were covering Champions League yesterday, and we were sitting in 60-degree weather, and I was freezing. But that being said, I'm pretty sure it's probably colder where you guys are.
It's getting there. Certainly. It's going to be the game on Saturday is going to be frigid. Frigid, St. Louis, frigid. I'm not going to claim to be a Minneapolis person, but it's going to be probably 20s for the game. So it's going to be cold. We had 60 today, though. We hit 60, so I was happy about that.
For you. I think we're going to get up to 60 again tomorrow. St. Patty's Day, a lot of people in St. Louis will be outside, and I don't think we're going to be seeing those same numbers outside on Saturday. I think Jake gave a fun fact on our preview episode that there's only been one day in San Jose that's been in the 25 degrees since 1931 or something like
1991. But
yes, same thing.
It was 1931, right?
1931, yeah.
Long history for the Quakes. No, but yeah, I was listening to your guys' episode when you were previewing the Quakes, so I'm excited to get into it a little bit. With that, but I guess just Jake, start us off. How's it been having an MLS club in St. Louis, following along, being able to report on it, and kind of the interactions you've had with fans as you guys have been kind of experiencing this really cool moment and the way they've been playing together?
Yeah, I mean, to sum it up in one go, I'd say it's been everything we could have dreamed of so far, and a little bit more on top of that. I think going down to Austin for that first game and to experience our first professional game in the MLS, and then to have that result despite probably the worst odds that might exist this season. I'm trying to remember we were going into that game, but it was pretty poor, deservedly so. I mean, Austin's a great team, a little bit of a rough start so far to the season, but being able to be there, the fans traveled there. They were electric. We were right below the supporters section with the Luligans, so shout out to them. And coming back home was a whole other thing. I was talking to you guys in the green room before this, but the way that St. Louis shows out for the sports team, Justin and I are definitely biased, but St. Louis shows up, whether that's the Battlehawks and throwing a big FU in Stan Kroenke's face, or the Cardinals, or for the St. Louis Blues. This city just loves sports, and City has been no short of followership. I mean, the noise level in the game, everyone stood for the entire game. I'm not super high on that yet. I'm a sitter. I am gonna say, but everyone stood the entire game. Yeah, right. I mean, people were jazzed. I mean, absolutely jazzed downtown. That the first home game, it was tens of thousands of people all waiting to see the newest team. So it's been incredible.
Yeah, Jake. So how's it been, I guess, to kind of watch this city get behind this team? I mean, has it been real immediate that this team or that these fans have gone, man, this team is legit? Or was there a kind of an angst in and around the stadium? I know that St. Louis teams have been pretty competitive in the past. Is there a lot of that, like, let's just hope and see that they're good? Or was it much more like, no, this team's great?
I think, and Justin, I'm curious your position on this, but I think for the seasoned soccer fans that kind of know what to expect going into this, I'd say we're in that bucket. We were cautiously optimistic. I think we were happy about how this had all been set up and how everyone kind of arrived early, probably a year or so before our even first game to get started. So I was optimistic, but not so much so as to where we're at right now. And I think the general St. Louis population was just excited to be here and to have a new franchise in St. Louis and a new team to support and to learn about soccer. So it's kind of two factions, I would say. Justin, I mean, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree. I think when we first came on, Jake and I thought realistically, if we're pushing for a playoff spot, that'd be a good season. So very cautiously optimistic. I know I kind of confused you, Jordan, the last one, and Logan, when I was like, oh, if we don't win the cup, it's over. That's just not us. and just stared at the camera. But I would agree with Jake. Anybody else that we have a lot of soccer history, a lot of soccer fans, but there's a ton of people also just excited to have another team to support. And I would say those people have just been through the roof and just been excited to have something. So not only just having the team now, but going 3-0, everybody's just having a great time.
Yeah, it's the club has done something that no other MLS club has done since 2009 when the Sounders entered the league, winning their first three straight matches. Yeah, San Jose coming up, which is usually seen as one of the weaker teams in the West. So do you all feel pretty good about making this 4 in a row? And I'd have to check to see if anybody's done that. Do we know if the Sounders did that, Logan?
They did not. No,
I think this would be the record.
Yep.
Yeah, this would be the record for most wins in a row to start as an expansion team. I'm feeling optimistic. I think the Quakes are off to a good start this season, certainly compared to last season. And I would feel maybe a little bit less optimistic had it not be in our home here. I mean, the Quakes had an awful away record last year, and that's not something you fix over an off season. And I'm hoping we can look to replicate that. Obviously, it's going to be pretty freaking cold here as well. And our guys have been training here all week, ready for that. So I think with the momentum we have, Justin and I both predicted a win here, and we are slightly biased, but Justin's predicted a loss before. I think I predicted 2 draws. So we try to be realistic in what we approach it as, but I think we should definitely be looking for the W here. And that's not just, because it'd be great to set that record. I think we should win this game with how things are trending so far.
And we looked into the breakdown of it. I think the Quakes are going to look to play through us, which we feel strong in our midfield with Leuven and Blum. Blum may not be starting or playing depending on his injury status. We're still trying to figure that out. But we've had guys step in. Miggy, the 17-year-old, played a huge role in our last win. Indiana Vasilev has actually come on and been a great utility guy as well. So if they're looking to come through and play through us, not concerned in that sense. And then for aerial threats with size, I think we have them beaten that as well. So it'll be a cold game for everyone, obviously, but I think the way that we have a pressing style and also the fans, that'll kind of keep our boys upbeat and hopefully take us to a dub.
I was going to say, just talking about the Quakes and people that cover the league, it's they can score with some of the best of them, but they cannot defend to save their lives. Haven't been able to for the 3 years that I've covered the league. Jordan's like, no, that's been a pretty regular thing for them. So I
do want to say they've only given up 3 this
so
year.
far.
Yeah, not bad.
Yeah, St. Louis has given up more.
Right.
I will agree with that. And 2 of theirs that they've given up were in stoppage time at Atlanta, the 94th and the 99th. But looking back to last year, like you said, they scored 52 goals. They were last in the West, which was the only team that didn't make the playoffs that scored more than them last year was Portland with 53. Everybody else scored well below them, but they gave up 69 goals.
Insane.
Which was second worst compared to DC. So I agree. I think they can score pretty well, but if you're giving up that much that early, it's tough. And it seems like, they're turning it around to start, but also not playing the best of teams when you look at the Rapids and the Whitecaps. So it's an early test.
Yeah, I was going to say the strength of schedule is not quite there. I think that the loss to Atlanta is, I guess that's the one that it really just they've been pretty good so far to start the season. Atlanta have, but let's talk a little bit about like what's been impressive so far from the actual team itself. When you're looking at this roster, I mean, who are some of the guys if you're flipping on the St. Louis game against the Quakes this weekend? Like, who are we looking at that's going to make a big impact in this game and what you've seen so far?
I think to start, at least so far this season, ironically enough, you saw in the media, and our Lutz Van and Steele, our sporting director, talked about our team being a designated team, and that kind of takes some of the spotlight off some of the designated players that we have, and we have two. And I don't think you look much further than those two. Edu Leuven and Joao Klaus, those two have been producing. I think 2 goals between them and 4 assists between them. Leuven is the engine room, the supplier. Everything runs through him right now. And with Blum out, he's kind of advancing his role a bit more on the attack side. And Klaus is just the big man up top. He's a goal scorer, and he's also really able to hold up play really well, obviously with his big stature, but he's also a big connector as well. So I think those two for me have been living up to the price tag, living up to the DP tag. And I'm really happy that we have that, because I feel like if you're in the MLS and you have a DP, they've got to be doing something for you, because you see it a lot of times where people go out and sign these and they just don't pan out. So I think we're lucky to have them start on this footing so far.
Justin, same thing. Just anybody you've been impressed with?
Yeah, I mean, I think Leuven has been by far our best player. He also leads the league currently in assists, so it's not just what he's doing on the defensive side, but also the offensive side and kind of directing guys through the midfield. Surprisingly, I think it was on one of the other shows we were on, but I think Jared Stroud has had a great first 3 games, and one that we didn't write off, but kind of just like picked up from Nashville or from Austin. I apologize. And we were kind of intrigued to see where he would fit in as a role. I thought he was going to be more of a role player. And maybe he will be, but he's shown a strong start in these first 3 games, and really appreciating what he's doing on the wings. And I mean, honestly, Roman Berkey hasn't had to make too many saves yet. I wouldn't say any of the goals that he's let in have been ones that were on him. So I think he's been playing well and seeing really well distribution from him, from his feet, and also directing guys. So I think everybody's just kind of fitting in the mold and still getting used to each other with the chemistry. A lot of these guys are from all over. So I'm hoping that'll grow as we kind of move on with the season.
There was some controversy with Stroud on his first goal. Did he call for the ball, or did he not call for the ball? Do we know?
I have some insider scoop on this, actually. I was listening to a podcast yesterday. I believe it's called Sam's Army, and it's they actually had Tim Parker on as a co-host, not even a guest.
Oh, wow.
And he went through the whole episode with them, and they asked him about that specifically. And he said that he asked Jared after the game in the locker room, and he said he did not say anything, but what he did do, which is apparently, I guess, those two also, Kip Keller and him, are also pretty tight, apparently, not just like teammates, acquaintances. They're pretty close. And he did say that he gestured, but to me, the gesture, I don't know. I mean, we can die on that hill or not, if you should be doing that for an opposing team player, but it sounds like they thought the chemistry between them and just his presence and him gesturing for the ball might have been enough to sway Kip to make that pass. But apparently no outward speaking is what we're hearing right now.
Yeah, I didn't think so. But, I know it's technically against the rules if he did, but I would have no problem with it in the sense of like, you should still be looking at who you're passing the ball to. You should still be aware of what you're doing.
The only thing I'll say on that, just to defend Kip a little bit, he did not start that game, had to come in the 11th minute from an injury. Right. He's from St. Louis, so obviously extremely nervous. That was one of his first main minutes in the MLS. He had a couple games last year, but definitely the nerves. And then looking up, and Stroud didn't say anything, looking up and see a friendly face and gesturing for the ball is probably like, oh yeah, here you go. So it was hard for Kip, and he's been beaten up down there a little bit by the media, but I think he'll push through.
Yeah. So I have a question for you both about the way that this team's been playing, in the sense of, they've kind of been coming back from behind, like each game. Is that some, like, one of my things that, somebody came into the chat last week in the build up to the Portland game and asked if I think that they can beat Portland. I said, yeah, I said, though they probably don't want to give up like an early goal. They happened to still give up an early goal to Portland, and they still came back and won it. But do you think that's sustainable? Is it now like, do you guys have the vibe that if you give up a goal like at any time in the game, are you guys like, we're going to come back? Because that's how I would probably feel. Like, I remember there was a time where like my Orioles would always be winning 1-run games in 2020 2012. Anytime we were in a one-run game, I felt pretty confident that we were going to win that game. So is that kind of like the vibe among St. Louis, or at least both of you?
I think so. I read a stat today too about the record for the most points obtained from behind positions is, I think, 24 or 28 points. And we already have 9 from a losing position. So we're like 33% of the way there, or actually, I think even above that. So I think it's the mentality that Bradley Carnell and the coaching staff have kind of instilled in this team, where it may not be the prettiest soccer out there. It may not be this beautiful flowing style of play, but we're never going to just accept a loss. We're going to fight and fight like dogs. Dogs is a nickname, a moniker kind of floating around that kind of describes this team right now. But I don't think this team has the confidence. They've done it 3 times already. So hopefully that's just instilled and it's here to stay. That's how I feel about it, at least.
I would personally appreciate not having to go through that every day. I don't know if I can do that for this long of a season. I'm extremely proud of the boys for fighting back, especially that happening on the road twice, and being an early goal in the most recent one. So, and the one before was a deflating one right before half. So the bounce back is real, and I appreciate that. But please don't have to do that a ton anymore. I do think that we can get there. It's good to see. I think it's also tactical adjustments showing from Carnell and the guys being able to push and work together, which it's good to see this early on. But I think it's just not sustainable. I'll say that. I do not want to have to try to beat that record that Jake mentioned.
Well, it's funny too, because the team that you're going up against this week, in 2012 coined the name Goonies, right? Because they were Goonies never say die, and they were always one of those teams that would come back from behind or score late stoppage time goals to equalize or win the game. So I just think it's funny now that that's the team that you're going up against now. But you point out it was only two away games, which is kind of huge to have 2 wins out of 2 away games so far. So we've barely even been able to see like the St. Louis atmosphere. Really, we had just the one game, which also fell behind early with Swiderski, right? Scoring that goal.
Was it Copetti?
Oh no, Copetti.
Yeah, Copetti
scoring that. Yep. So I guess just looking ahead at, you said it's going to be cold. Do you think you're going to be able to sit down during this game, or is everybody going to be standing again?
I mean, for this one, I actually probably won't mind standing because of the temperature. But
yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I don't want to set that as a precedent moving forward. It's definitely going to be a St. Louis trying to outdo St. Louis atmosphere compared to what we did our first game, and it's going to be kind of feeling like, I would compare it to a really cold NFL game where everyone's just standing up, like kind of huddled together and screaming and trying to keep blood flowing in the body, because it's going to be pretty chilly out there. And I don't anticipate a lot of sitting in this one. People maybe bringing in cardboard to stand on, pulling out the old tricks here. So that the atmosphere, though, I don't think the weather is going to affect the atmosphere. I don't think we necessarily drop off when the weather's kind of crappy here. We're an all-weather type of town, I would say. I mean, we see every season, and I feel like we can see every season like in a 2-week span as well.
Yeah, I mean, we have the high today that is 60, and then Saturday's high is 30. So, and I think people are used to it. And so when we hit a 7:30 p.m. game time, it's going to be low 20s. And we are used to that. I know we have the Blues, which is indoors, and the Rams, we're in a dome. But the Cardinals, which do have a storied history and make it pretty far in the playoffs, it can get chilly in the playoff game. So still show out, have packed games for that. I think the excitement is still real here. And there's so many people that weren't able to get to the first game because it sold out so quickly. So I'm hoping to see the stands just as packed.
I was going to say, I'm dreading people having to go to St. Louis in the summer, because I've been sitting in New Busch Stadium, sitting up in the upper deck, and that sun comes in, and I didn't know St. Louis could get that hot, but I felt like they were just roasting us. And then I felt it was kind of a personal vendetta they had against Cubs fans, because they put us all up in this like really sunny spot in the stadium and everybody else is shaded. I'm like, what the hell's happening?
Probably was. Yeah, it probably was. No, we get both. It gets scorching. I'm sure in like 2 weeks, it's going to be 95 and 107 with humidity. So, you know what? I don't care about this as much. If it's not in the teens or like the single digits, I'm okay. But it's going to be cold, certainly for the San Jose team making their way here.
I will say the only thing that could possibly keep people away is the Battlehawks also kick off for the XFL. They kick off at home at 6 p.m. and we kick off at 7:30 at home. So I will be attending the first half of the Battlehawks game and then Ubering to the city.
I think I saw
because you have season tickets for both, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Wouldn't miss it.
I think I saw a tweet too of the Battlehawks, the stadium, and they're like, "Why does this team, or why does the city still not have an NFL team again?" Like
we had 38,000 fans at our home opener this past weekend. And the weekend before, the entire XFL across 5 games had 46,000 fans. Wow. So the city is showing out for that as well. Obviously, a lot easier when it's indoors, and our team is good. So big rivalry game is coming up this weekend against the DC Defenders. Sorry, I know we're not here to talk about that.
Yeah, well, that's our new XFL podcast.
Yes.
But where do they play at? Where do they play at the old Rams Stadium then?
They do, and it is pretty. It still looks like the Rams. It did when I was a kid when the Rams were here. They have not made any updates because there's no money going into it. I mean, there's conventions. They had Monster Truck there, so they're doing their job. It's just a place to house fans. People are getting rowdy inside. I don't think they really care if drywall is falling off the ceiling.
Well, before we let you go, I do want to ask: has the expectations for the season changed after these 3 games, where you're, leading the Western Conference? Of course, like LA hasn't played 3 games yet, so that could still change on goal differential. Our prediction, we had St. Louis bottom of the West. Ooh. I'd like to probably go back and change that now. So I'm wondering, do you guys have any expectations that have changed due to the hot start? Or we saw this with Austin's first season too. They came in and actually started playing pretty well, and then kind of started dropping off around 5 to 6 games into it. So are we still expecting this to kind of continue, or are you expecting, the predictions we set in our last episode we had, John, are still like the ones that we should be expecting?
I don't think it's changed all that much for me. Maybe slightly more positive. And when I say that, I think we came in saying that a successful season objectively would be pushing for a playoff spot, like knocking on the door or just missing it. I think what we've proven with the foundations we've laid of being able to be resilient and then being able to compete with some really, really good teams, I think, looking more so at a Portland or an Austin, I think being able to compete in these games will pave the way for us. And I think now I might adjust mine to say we should make the playoffs. We should aim to make the playoffs, not necessarily the pushing for the playoffs part of the narrative there. But starting off with 9 points is massive. And a lot of other, pundits might have picked us for maybe a couple of wins on this season. So the fact that we've started like this, I think it'd be a missed opportunity to not push on and try to make the playoffs, especially with an expanded format. So that's kind of factoring as well.
Yeah, I'm definitely still on MLS Cup or Bust. And
that time I knew we were joking.
Yeah. I'll say I'm going to temper it. I'm just going to say I'm still hoping to make a playoff spot. It's easy to get excited. There's a lot of energy, but it's 3 games. It's a long season. If you look at it, Charlotte's bottom of the table. We have the Earthquakes coming in, not a great team historically, especially on the road. Obviously Austin's a great team, but they've had their ups and downs as well. And getting 2 away wins is huge, especially from behind, but it's a long season. I think we'll definitely have a part where we're probably going to lose 3 games in a row. So then we're going to feel like, oh God, can we make the playoffs? So right now I'm still expecting a little bit above halfway, making the playoffs. Maybe a new goal instead of just making the playoffs is make the playoffs in the old format where we would have made it anyways. So that's a little bit.
Yeah. Higher. Top 7.
There you go.
There we go.
There you go.
I think a stat was going around, right, of 18 of 19 teams that have started with 9 straight points have made the playoffs. I haven't heard who that odd team out was. I'm guessing it's the Quakes, just because.
Probably the Fire or something.
We have our teams that we go after. People hate it. But, yeah, no, I think that this season for St. Louis has been phenomenal to watch from afar. You guys' fan base, and I've said this time and time again, and I'll keep beating the same drum. I think it's the best fan base. I know Austin fans will come after us because we got a lot of those. But they just, I think hands down, St. Louis has the best fan base for a city that I've ever seen, just because of how passionate. And the other thing about St. Louis fans is they know the game. They learn the game. They're educated in what's going on. Whereas there's a lot of fans in other cities that just don't take the time to learn the game and respect the game as it exists. But I've always just liked watching you guys from a distance and listening to your podcast, I can tell it's the same way. It seems like everybody that's interacting with you, it seems like an educated fan base that just knows that this team's going to be a good team for years to come, it seems.
Certainly. Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
All right, so thanks for joining us, guys. Can you guys just plug, where can people find you? How can they kind of follow along with St. Louis City over the weekend and then on in the season?
Yeah. So we have not moved. We are still on Twitter and Instagram at ballwatchingstl. All one word, no spaces, no characters there. We're also on YouTube, putting out more videos and content there as well at ballwatchingstl. But yeah, you can catch us if you're in St. Louis, catch us at the Pitch. It's a cool new soccer bar right outside the stadium. It is a dope atmosphere for soccer fans and for just having fun around St. Louis, especially in downtown. So catch us there, but we're looking forward to having hopefully a hell of a ride the rest of the season here.
The Pitch has some great ambiance and decor.
Well, Jake, Justin, it's been a blast. We hope to have you guys on again, talking some playoff soccer for St. Louis City.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having us.
Yep. See you guys.
Appreciate it.
See ya.
Thanks.
Let me change the thing back to this. All right. Go ahead, Logan.
Go ahead. I can't take over the hosting abilities, man. This is a tough role for me. But no, I think it's a lot of fun having guys on, right? That can talk about.
So you're gonna say it was a lot of fun being the host?
No, well, I mean, okay, it's hard work. Like, I feel like I have to fill like different places, and you don't really have to. You just kind of have to let it happen organically. I think it's harder once you get more people in. But yeah, no, it was a blast having the guys on from Ball Watching. We always enjoyed talking to Justin and Jake. So thanks for joining us. But yeah, Jordan, what are your thoughts on Orlando City? Yeah, what are your thoughts on Orlando City losing that CONCACAF Champions League? No,
well, they actually drew. But,
no, what are your thoughts on St. Louis City? Are your expectations higher? I mean, that was a really good question, I think, that you asked there at the end. Are your expectations higher now that you've seen the product on the field?
Yeah, I think I would have them higher than where we have them.
Yeah.
Right? Like I think Houston's a worse team, right? I think they're probably it's hard to get. It's easy to get carried away.
Yeah.
With this, I feel like we were all really talking up Austin in their first season, but they didn't do 9 points out of 9 either, with 2 of those being away games. But like you said, or like Jake said, or maybe it was Justin, I forget, on who they've played. I think it was Justin said.
Yeah.
You know, Charlotte's bottom, right? 0 points from Charlotte still. San Jose has
the 5th spot, baby.
Yeah, they're 5th. But Austin is sitting in 4th.
Yeah.
So that is somebody that they took, some points from. But Austin also didn't look great, when we're looking at how they actually played. And Portland is in a playoff spot too. So it's not like they're playing like super bad teams, but they've been kind of playing teams that should probably be playing better and have kind of disappointed, like Portland and like Austin at the start of the season. And Austin is still kind of disappointing a bit when we talk about Champions League. I know they didn't play like everybody, but it's it's hard to kind of gauge so far on how it is. But I would definitely, if we had to revisit this, right, I'm moving St. Louis up. And I think they were right that they could probably make the playoffs in a 9-team format. I think the goal should be, like they said, like Justin said, top 7, especially with how good they've started off. But it's tough because a 3-game losing streak could be right around the corner, like he said too. And you never really know. I think San Jose is actually better than they've been in the past few seasons.
Yeah.
I really think they're starting to find their feet. They're not giving up that many goals. They've given up 3. 2 of those were in 1 game, right? So when you think about it that way, they've only given up 1 goal in the other 2 matches. So that might be tough. But also, I don't think San Jose is scoring a lot. They've scored 4 compared to St. Louis scoring 8. So at this point, I probably think that they can win this game and go 12 points and make MLS history. And at that point, I think it just gets more and more realistic that they make the playoffs because if you get 12 points out of 12 possible, yes, you might get a losing streak at some point, but you've already started off the season so hot that you're doing better than every other team in the league, which sets you up for being able to drop points later on.
I think without disappointing to like the Timbers and Austin have been, it's still worth mentioning that it's really hard to go on the road in MLS and grab 3 points, 1 point, let alone that. So I think that it speaks to how well this team, I think, is coached and how well they're playing, is because you know going to Providence Park and Q2 Stadium, those are two of the hardest places to play in MLS, and some of the most ruckus away fans. So to be able to come into this these two matches, come from behind and win, and do it in an emphatic way, I think that's been massive for St. Louis. I think having 8 goals, which leads the league, I believe, leads the league in goals. I know LA have not played as many games, which they probably will surpass St. Louis in the goal tally. But I think that the fact that St. Louis has gone this deep into the season, they've got 9 points. And like I said, like the stats that's been going around, I think Opta was the one that tweeted it, but 18 of 19 teams have made the playoffs when they've started with 9 straight points. And with the expanded playoff format, I just think this is pretty much a shoo-in as long as they don't completely fall out of the sky. So again, I think it's an exciting time in St. Louis. I really want to get to a game out there. I know it'll be very difficult to get a ticket, especially with how well they've been playing and the results they've been getting. But I'm interested to kind of see what that stadium is like because, like they said, the climate there is absolutely bonkers. It's bipolar. It's got hot days, it's got cold days. But no, I'm excited. I think that St. Louis City fans probably feel the same way that Jake and Justin do. This has been a really nice surprise. Do they think it's going to continue? Probably not. There's probably going to be at least some regression to the team just because it is the expansion club. But I think they're a competitive side, and I think they're going to have a lot better start than teams like Cincinnati, like a Miami. I think that they're going to have a lot more success than some of these teams. Not quite as good as Nashville, I wouldn't think, because they're in the Western Conference, but who knows? I think that's still kind of up in the air. All right. How do you want to do this? Do you want to go? Let's just do CCL now. Let's knock out CCL. Actually, you know what?
Can we talk U.S. men's stuff?
Yes, let's do that. I forgot that happened. But Jordan, what happened? I'm so confused. Is there something going on?
Well, we talked about the full report on Monday. That is out. Christian Pulisic was asked about it, which is going to be on, I think, Football Americas tonight. It's like a 40-minute sit down. But this clip has somehow come out, I guess, as promotional. ESPN also just took the headline for it and really made it sound worse than it was. I'm gonna play this clip, okay?
Nice.
Here we go.
For me, it's an interesting one because, like you said, I'm not here to appoint the next manager. It's not my job. Whoever it is, I'm gonna play and give 100%. And that's what I'm going to do. But in my opinion, it's thing that happened with Greg. First of all, is I think handled in an extremely childish manner. I think we all have seen what's been going on. I think it's childish. It's youth soccer. People complaining about playing time. I don't want to go too far into that. But that's what we'll say. I think Greg has been extremely unfortunate in the position to get even into the position he is now. Do I feel like we should just wait and I don't think it's necessary because I don't feel we're in a phase like we were after not qualifying 4 years ago or however many years ago for the last World Cup, where we need a complete rebuild. We don't need some, a bunch of new guys coming in and this. We have a strong core, in my opinion. And I think a lot of people have seen that, and we need to carry on with that. And that's why it's a tough one for me, because I think we could just want to continue that as soon as we can and build off of this World Cup, World Cup, which I think had a lot of positives in it, I will say. And I think we want to get going with that as soon as.
So a couple things there. The part that I was referring to at the headline says that it's been handled childishly. That's the quote they took. And people were reading that as Greg acting childishly. The usual Berhalter out people. But when you hear the whole thing, he actually feels really sorry for how Greg has got wrapped up into this. I'm sure he's talking about social media stuff, but he's also probably talking about, mostly, as he hints there, the Reynas and what's happening with all of that. People have been pointing out McKennie's father, his tweet again about how Greg has gotten those guys to believe, and the timing of it being during the World Cup, probably around the time that the Reyna stuff is going on, and that probably all the other parents were probably fed up with Claudio and Danielle as well. I think just shows how much they are behind Greg. And it sounds like Pulisic is, like he said, it's not my job to hire a manager. He wants to build off what we've built. I don't think he cares really if Greg comes back or not, but I think he feels sorry for how Greg kind of got screwed this whole thing. I really do think at this point we would have had an extension for Berhalter, and if it wasn't for this. And the players, whatever you want to say, seem to like the way Greg manages this team. And what I want to end with that before we really go on from there, I've already seen some people turning on Pulisic saying, well, blah, 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 blah. That's dumb. If the other part of his whole thing is we want to build off of it, we don't need a reboot. So why is it taking so long to hire a manager? We should be able to just continue going on with either Greg or somebody else that can come in, and we're not playing under Anthony Hudson and his awful MLS record and like going through an interim manager when he doesn't feel like we need an interim manager. And I agree with Christian. We don't. Either you rehire Greg or you go out there and find somebody before the summer. So you're not having people, Anthony Hudson, calling in people when he's not going to be here in a year. That's the kind of frustrating thing that I'm finding with it. And I'm glad to hear the captain of the team being frustrated with it as well. Now, I get that we lost a GM. He stepped down. I don't think you need a GM, honestly. I think you can just have the president hire a manager who's going to go play his style. That's going to build off the style Greg had, whether it's Greg, whether it's somebody else. We're now being linked with Thierry Henry is turning down the French women national team so he can be in line for the U.S. men's national team, which is ludicrous. Because he's not been a good manager, Thierry Henry. And, people are taking polls on Twitter right now that I just responded to, because 3/4 of the people in that poll said they'd rather have Thierry Henry over Greg Berhalter. Being a good player doesn't make you a good manager. And that's kind of the frustrating thing I'm finding here. Thierry Henry's manager record with Montreal, 29 matches, 1 point per match. Monaco, 0.95 points per match, 20 matches played. He was assistant manager for Belgium. Other than that, that's all that he's done. He hasn't done anything manager-wise to make me think, hey, that's somebody. He's got 49 games managed. That's it. I don't think that's somebody I want managing our national team. If it's between Greg and Thierry Henry, I want Greg. Greg has familiarity with the players. He knows the pool better than Thierry Henry would. He knows the dynamic of the players. So I don't think Thierry Henry is the answer. I'm not saying Greg is either. But when you keep having players stick up for this man, he must be doing something right. And, for all the people saying that the World Cup was a disappointment, obviously the players don't feel that way. Christian Pulisic just said that they had a good World Cup that he wants to build off of. So for me, it's kind of like, and then I see people turning on Pulisic, like I mentioned before, and them saying, well, blah, 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 he doesn't know what he's talking about, or what do you expect him to say? He shouldn't weigh into this right now. He was asked a question about it, and he answered it. He's not really advocating for any manager. Like he says, he can't hire him. And he said, whoever they hire, he's going to give 100% for. And that is something we did not see from Gio Reyna, who's jogging around practice games, not really giving a crap. So we'll see. We'll see how it all shakes out, I guess. But I'm curious to get your thoughts, Logan, because I don't think Thierry Henry is the answer. I know people love him because he was a player. I also know that people just love that he was part of that Belgium team for assistant manager, even though that Belgium team is constantly disappointed when they had their golden generation. So I don't know. I don't think he's that great. I love him as a player, but I don't know.
I think people just associate good feelings with what they feel when they watch Champions League because Thierry is very funny. I'm in agreement with you in the fact that no, I don't think he should manage at any level. I just don't think he's got the knowledge and stuff to be a coach. Like there are people, like you said,
and
Jordan,
that's
you can be a good
okay,
player. Yes,
right? Like
yes.
not everybody's going to be a coach. Not every a player can be a good player without being a good coach. Like that's possible.
Oftentimes what you see are players that were more role players or guys that were super subs become better coaches. And the reason behind that is because one, they're not as gifted tactically, they're not gifted with the ability to just walk on water. A lot of times your players that are some of your top athletes don't understand the game as well. It's the athleticism, it's the gifts that they've been possessed with that carry them over the top. They are oftentimes the people that do not have the highest IQ on the pitch. It's usually your defenders. It's usually guys that are anchoring a back line. It's usually some of these super subs, maybe a role player that's really had success. Maybe one of those guys that's one of those off wingers that's had success. Look at Mikel Arteta. He was not known as being Thierry Henry for sure. And look what he's done. It's because he's been on the bench. He's had to work his way through the system. He's been around the coaches. And there are guys that do that. There are guys that are meant to do that. David Ross, I always use that as an example. The reason why he's the Cubs manager is because he was a backup catcher. He sat on the bench a ton. He was around coaches all his life. He was in the war rooms. He was taking
catchers are good
notes,
managers too because they have to call games. They have to understand situational stuff a little bit better than other positions. But that's kind of like the equivalent, right? Thierry Henry is a striker.
Yeah.
Arteta was midfield. He could see more of the field. Defenders that see all of the field. Like there's a lot of those. That the reason why they are, better managers. But yeah, I just think it's funny now that of course people are saying, because I've gotten into it with people on Twitter where they're like, show me where Pulisic or other Euro players have said that they are behind Greg. And I sent them stuff from before the World Cup, and they're like, well, that's before the World Cup. Why would that matter? Oh, that's before the Reyna stuff. Oh, guess what? This is all after the Reyna stuff, by the way. And it seems like they mostly agreed with the way Greg handled it.
Right. You look at Ricardo Pepi, somebody that was left off the roster, and yes, he's got a kind of a snarky comment, but any kid would be upset being left off the World Cup roster when they felt like they deserved it. But you see them coming back. They're coming back into the fold. There's a reason why Balogun and guys like Zendejas and guys like Timothy Weah and guys that have a chance to play for another country, there's a reason why they selected Greg Berhalter. We talked about this a ton when we talked about Yunus Musa. There is a reason why people gravitated towards Greg. Yes, he's got an ugly past, right? We've all done things we're not proud of. This just so happened to be a more escalated incident. But I think what Christian did was probably he and Tyler Adams. Tyler handled the whole Qatar situation with grace and with the awareness of like, yes, I'm aware that this is not something that was acceptable. And yes, we're going to change it. But yes, there's also an issue here, right? That's what Christian did too. Yeah. Christian was like, yes, there's an issue. Yes, it's serious, but I'm going to handle this like an adult. If that was Gio, he comes in front, like it ends up being like a Cristiano Ronaldo with Piers Morgan. Like it ends up being like a, well, and it is, it's that youth. And Christian described it perfectly. It's that youth soccer. And you're right, Jordan, the fact that Weston McKennie's dad's tweeting about the childness and all the things that like he loves Greg and how well he is for, guys like Weston who had look at that. Like Weston McKennie, Jordan, was pretty much almost exiled from this team.
Yep.
Causing all sorts of issues. We don't know what they are. But the good thing is that never came out, and it ended up being like Greg said, we handled it. We did what we needed to do. And then he turned Weston McKennie around, and he had one of the better World Cups. So, again, I think Christian handled this with probably the best. If he handled this the best way that I think he possibly could.
That's what people comparing this to Pulisic complaining about not playing at Chelsea. And that kind of, it's not the same. And the reason it's not the same is because Christian is trying in training. From all reports, he's not sulking, doing half-hearted runs, and he understands that there's competition. He'll say that in his Chelsea stuff, like, hey, I just feel like I should be on the field. That's not the same thing as how Gia Gio was reacting to it. So, whatever. I think we're good to move on now.
All right, let's move into CONCACAF Champions League. Jordan, just before we launch into the games, overall thoughts, how are you feeling after watching this round? This round is now completed.
There will not be an MLS winner of Champions League this year.
Wow.
I know people think Philly can do it. I don't think so when they get to the tougher opponents. Austin, I was really excited. Thought they were going to make the comeback. They get knocked out. Philly had 0-0. They come in and they score 4. That's great. But let me tell you, somebody that had like a 4-1 lead, Olympia, right, loses to Atlas in 90+2 minute to go out on a 5-4 aggregate. Vancouver, they obviously had the 5 goals in the first game, but just seeing them even give up 3 to Real España sucks. Orlando was close, but I think we'll get more into that. And then LAFC almost blew it. Like, I'm not feeling LAFC and Philly are the strongest teams. Philly's looked the best in the Champions League, but I don't know because they haven't looked sharp in the league. So I'm kind of worried about how that's going to turn out when they have to face Atlas now, right? Who came back from 4-1 aggregate to move on. So I don't feel really good about the U.S. chances here. But what I will say about Orlando before we really dive into your thing there, I think for somebody that is in their first ever Champions League, this was a good showing. They held on at the road. They really had some chances to win this game against Tigres. They had a chance right before the goal, and then they, threatening at the end of the match. As far as I could tell, FS2 cut off and started playing the same baseball game on FS1 that they're playing. I don't know what's going on there. And this is what I saw somebody tweet out. I think it was MLS Buzz account that was like, now, all you Apple haters now know why we really like this deal. It's because this is the way that they've been treated for regular MLS games too. This is a CONCACAF Champions League and they're cutting it off. Frustrating. But I think Orlando played they played well. Austin, I think if they didn't lose 3-0 the first game, I think I would probably feel a little bit better about their showing. But, it's just kind of inexcusable for them.
Yeah, so I was at the Orlando City game last night. I've not heard that stadium, and there were a lot of Tigres fans. I'll get into this just because it was very interesting to watch. So Tigres comes up, Mexican Giants, right? Orlando City, not really known for selling out stadiums, especially in midweek matches. They have a hard time filling that stadium. But the stadium, as the night grew on, ended up being pretty darn full. The thing that really threw me off, though, was that the away end up on the upper deck, they gave completely to Tigres supporter groups. And the supporter groups did show up. And there were probably, I can't even guess how many seats there are down there, probably 400, 500 seats. And that little section was full, but the whole other part of that section was complete. It was like 2/3 of the section, and that upper bowl in behind the away goal was completely empty. And they do that for security reasons. They don't, I think CONCACAF actually has rules because a lot of times these supporter groups really get into it in CONCACAF. There's a lot of ignorance, I think, with both sides. So I think that's ultimately why they do it. There were flares being thrown on the pitch. You don't normally see that in Orlando City. So that was kind of wild, even from the home fans, and we're known as one of the more ruckus groups. But yeah, Jordan, I was outside covering that game, 60-degree weather, freezing my butt off, forgot my jacket. But I can honestly say it gave me goosebumps with how loud that stadium got. Anytime any of them had a chance, it didn't matter if it was Tigres or Orlando City, phones were out, watching the game, like zooming in, recording like young fans with Tigres fans cheering for Orlando City, like chances. Like it was bonkers. Like I didn't know what was going on. I was like, I'm so confused. Who are you a fan of? I think they were just a fan of soccer, and Tigres showed up, and they're like, oh,
yeah,
hell,
probably.
Watch them. Because a lot of them did have like the non-neutral colors on, like black, and you couldn't tell who they were rooting for, and they'd stand up randomly. But it was electric. The loudest I've ever heard that stadium at 19,000. That stadium usually has 24, 25, I think, as their sellout, and that was the loudest I'd ever heard that place. When that goal was scored by Eric Amcara, I've never seen that stadium so electric in my life. Like in my life, I don't think I've ever experienced something so loud and so like, oh my gosh, can they do this? But then they start doing the time wasting crap at the end, and Oscar Pereira was pissed, so he got a red card. It was nuts. Like it was wild. Like it was unbelievable. I loved it. But again, a 1-1 draw. Away goals suck. It would have been so cool if they just got rid of away goals and had a PK shootout, because that place would have been absolutely rocking. So CONCACAF, if you're listening, please get rid of, at least throw in extra time for a second leg. Not, whoa, we just changed colors. But yeah, no, it would be fun if they would just get rid of those stupid away goals, which I think they've done in pretty much every other competition in the world, is try to get away from away goals just because they're pointless. But yeah, electric atmosphere. Gignac didn't play. We were really good in the last 8 minutes of the game. That was pretty much it. We sucked the rest of it. Yeah, Tigres is really good. So as far as the other games, though, Jordan, Violet almost lose it to Austin. 3-0 up. Jordan, they couldn't bring any of their guys. They had a lot of visa issues. Couldn't guys get registered up here to play. I think they ended up with a bench of, I want to say 3 players. And it ended up having to select people from different teams. I think there was a USL player on their roster selected.
I think
as a
so,
bench
yeah.
player. It was wild. But these are semi-professionals. I didn't know that. These are semi-professional players. I think it had been almost a year since they played, or had been over a year since they had played a game because of the situations in Haiti politically. So it's been I think 300 some odd days that they hadn't played a professional match. And they're a semi-professional team. They come up to Austin in Q2, almost blow it. But Jordan, Austin had all sorts of chances. This thing could have been 6-0.
They had 2 offside goals or 2 goals called back in this game, and they would have won. Yeah. So
amazing, I think. Violet's going to have to go. I had the bracket pulled up. It was funny because they have to go play. Oh, they have to play Lyon probably. So going from MLS giants to Mexican League giants, absolute giants. Lyon is always known as being one of the better clubs in Liga MX. So the good side of CONCACAF, Jordan, with Austin and Orlando being eliminated, Philadelphia Union did beat Alianza 4-0. Alianza just did not look like they were ready for that at all. They looked totally different. You didn't really get to see the first game much. This team didn't even look like the same team, but I think a lot of that had to do with the rotation, just because Philly's just so powerful when they get their regulars guys.
Yeah, they played a lot of their regular players. They got a few goals from Damian Lowe, who just made the move over. You had Gazdag penalty kick. You had Pereira from former Orlando, right? 81 and 84th minute. So the depth is the thing that we've been looking forward to for the Union. And they're starting to the depth pieces are getting better and better each year. And that's good, because sometimes you need to make those changes. And I feel like when we can put in a Pereira or, Torres, there's a better chance of the Union playing better and scoring than if we had to resort to, Fabian Herbers or, Shabilko coming in or Sergio Santos. I think the level is higher now for our subs.
Vancouver, I don't think they've seen that many goals scored ever. 7-3. It's been a while since Vancouver scored 7 goals, Jordan. I don't think you and I were alive. That's a joke. I'm totally kidding. I know they've scored 7, probably 8. But Jordan, I think the biggest disappointment of the night, and I was an Orlando City fan, of course, but I think the biggest disappointment for me was LAFC's match.
Yes, at home.
Yes, against Alianza. Jordan, you watched a ton of it because you were texting me back and forth. I was in and out of the game. But anything that you really that stuck out, is it just their inability to kind of put teams away this year? What is it that makes LAFC just not so good? And I thought they were heavy favorites on that side of the bracket.
They're getting so many shots, right?
Yeah.
I think part of it is they thought it was over. I do think they thought that at 3-0. I thought, and we're going home. I think they thought it was over. 8 minutes in, it's a handball on Chiellini. And that kind of changes the match as it lets them in, right? 51st minute, another goal goes in. And you're like, all right, if they tie this up, those are both 3 away goals for each team. things can start looking a little weird. 83rd minute, Carlos Vela is able to step up and score. But, I mean, when you're looking at the stats, 26 shots to 12. All right. But when you look at shots on goal, 8-7. So LAFC are getting all these shots, but they're not converting them. Right. We in this game anyway, we've seen them convert them throughout the rest of it, but they had more possession, they had more shots, they had just one more shot on goal. So while they technically lose the game, thanks to those 3 goals from last week, they're able to squeak through. And now they're going to go up against Vancouver. For them, that's a respite. I really do think so. I think they're like, thank God we're done with
that's fine.
Course correct with Vancouver, because they're going to have to either face Philly or Atlas next. And both of those teams will give LAFC a huge push. Vancouver can still do it, I guess, but I think most people would think LAFC is going to win this game. I think that'll be easier for LAFC. It's a team they're familiar with facing. It's a Western Conference team. It's a team that they know pretty well. And for Philly, it's like, I don't know if they can get through Atlas, but if they can, we might have an MLS Cup rematch in the semifinals of the CONCACAF Champions League.
Yeah, the CONCACAF Champions League schedule makers, bracket makers, whatever they are, we're shining some light down onto this tournament because, Jordan, the whole other side of the bracket completely gone. No MLS teams left.
Yeah, no Austin, no Orlando. They're all gone.
So Vancouver and LAFC, like Jordan alluded to, are playing one another 8 o'clock on April 3rd, and then also Philly play at 8 o'clock on April 3rd against Atlas. And so that's I think that side is ours for the taking, Jordan. I think LAFC and the Union might be headed for another square off because that would be really exciting. Although, Jordan, you can't live tweet it or anything or put it on YouTube because I'm sure that people will have. Would that be? That's 2 legs, right? That'd be Philly and LA, right?
Yeah.
Oh man, that'd be a lot of fun. Goodness, could you imagine Subaru and the I about called it the bank, BMO.
Well, BMO is still a bank, so you can.
Right. That's so. No, looking forward to those, Jordan. I think those are great matchups. I'm really hoping.
What would be nice is that even if it's Vancouver, if you can get 2 MLS teams in the semifinal, you're guaranteed 1 in the final, and you have a shot.
Yep.
But other than that, if it's just LAFC versus Atlas, there's a shot that there's no MLS team in a final.
I think we're headed for a MLS versus Pachuca Tigres game, which could be exciting. Not both teams; they can't both play against us. That'd be cheating. But no. So let's move on to MLS, so that way we can not make this episode 3 hours long. But we're going to preview this weekend's matches for MLS.
It's time for the Match of the Week preview.
Match of the Week preview, where we give you our best match of the weekend. Jordan, it starts at 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock? 4:30?
4 o'clock. So 4:25 because it's going to be on
That's
Fox.
Right.
Let me see if I'm right.
It's on Big Fox, but it might move over to like Fox Plus Soccer United channel or something stupid.
So if you have it on Apple,
LAFC and Seattle, Jordan, they're facing off against one another. 2 of the big giants in the West this year. That's kind of fun to say again. Seattle will host LAFC at Lumen Field. That starts us off at 4 o'clock. Jordan, how do you want to do this? Do you want to kind of go through each game a little tidbit, like what you're looking forward to about the game?
Sure.
Okay. All right, let's do that then. LAFC and Seattle, Jordan. I'm going to ask you. Let's ask you a question. Let's say, what are you looking forward to most about this match as far as the 2 giants are concerned?
Well, it's a pretty, I was going to say even. It's close to even. 7 wins for LAFC, 5 for Seattle, 3 draws. That's a pretty good number for LAFC after just entering the league to have over Seattle. So I do think that's fun. Like LAFC won its first ever MLS match at Seattle in March 2018. Seattle is just coming off a loss at Cincinnati where they couldn't score a goal. There's something different about Lumen Field though, but I guess I'll leave a prediction here. I think I'm going to go with I think LAFC wins this one. I'll go 3-1.
3-1. Wow, that's 3-1 LAFC. Is that what you said? Holy cow, at Lumen, man. I'm concerned about the health of Seattle, right? I think that's always just a big concern. Bear was back training, but independently on his own. So I think they said it was like 2 or 3 weeks before he'd actually be back in game action. So having to rely on Rui Diaz, who was also hurt last season. I think that, again, it feels like I'm just waiting around for Seattle to drop because I'm afraid somebody's going to get hurt and then that'll be it again. I think that's a concern that is justifiable. But I think that going to Seattle is going to be tough for LAFC. They played 2 matches, Seattle up above them with 3, but again, LAFC have played in Champions League, so it's kind of balanced itself out. This is coming off that game that I don't think went that way for LAFC. I'm actually concerned about LAFC coming into this match if I'm going to speak objectively about it. I think Seattle grabbed a win 2-1. And I think they grab an important home win against rivals that I'm pretty sure they'll be chasing down in the Western Conference this year. But let's move over to Atlanta and Portland, 7:30 on MLS Season Pass. Jordan, Atlanta coming into this match, right, having played extremely well so far. Top of the Eastern Conference, they have 7 points. Do you think they are sitting at the top of the Eastern Conference come Saturday Saturday night?
Yes.
Cool.
I'll go yes, because they're all kind of bunched up, so it's tough to say. But I just want to highlight this is Portland's first visit to Atlanta since they lost the MLS Cup final in 2018. So Atlanta might be pumped up for that. There might be some bad memories for Portland. So I think Atlanta can win this. Can win this, I think. It all depends. I feel like they've played what is this, their 3rd home game already?
Atlanta. Sounds like
Atlanta?
right. Sounds right. They have
Atlanta, they've won and drawn at home, and they have 1 win away.
Yeah, San Jose at home, Toronto at home, Portland at home. Wow.
And Portland, I think, has been kind of struggling. They're doing all right, but I thought they'd be doing better. So I'll go ahead and say Atlanta, top of the East still after this. They'll win.
So Jordan's got them winning. Atlanta staying on top of the Eastern Conference. Our friend Sam, actually, I want to check this out because it was a grocery list of players that were out. Here it is. So Mora, Blanco, Ayala, Aspria, Ikoba, Jimmy Chara, Paredes, and Evander are all out for Saturday's match. There's no chance they win. I don't think there's a chance in HE double hockey sticks that they win this game. I think Atlanta actually looks really. Jordan's trying to. Can you spell yet? That's kind of exciting. But no, I think looking at Atlanta, I kind of want to see Yakamakis get more involved. He's not played as much, but they're kind of implementing and integrating him into the system slowly but surely. I think like we've always talked about, I think Thiago Almada is just a phenomenal player in this league, MVP caliber. I think Atlanta get the win. I'm gonna say it's 3-0. I'm gonna say it's a bloodbath. I'm saying Atlanta, yes, stays on top of the Eastern Conference, which is really exciting for them because it's been kind of a tough road.
I don't have a score line. I'm just gonna say they win.
Okay. It's hard. It's kind of hard to project with 26 players out. All right, move to your Philadelphia Union. They go to Montreal, and Montreal, Jordan, is still scoreless. Yes, still scoreless. Giving up 5 goals. Hernan Losada's tenure as a Montreal coach.
No points.
No points. And definitely not good results. They have played Inter Miami, lost 2-0. Austin FC 1-0. They lost, and Nashville pounded them in 2-0. Jordan, do Montreal get off the snide against one of the best defensive teams in this league?
No, but I'll say that it's going to be closer than you would think. This almost feels like a trap game, like Chicago. I'm going to say it's a 1-0 Union win. Probably a late goal.
Probably a late goal. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think Union will rotate heavily just coming off the Champions League matches. It seems like Jim Curtin's going to turn his attention to being more competitive in these Champions League matches as they get further and progress further, and they have to go up against Atlas. I think that Alianza, I think Jim felt pretty comfortable playing guys like Chris Donovan. I think obviously the Andre Blake thing is going to be a question mark every week until he's back. But I think Joe does well. Yeah.
He's going to be pretty healthy. I know he's not going to play Montreal, but I wouldn't be shocked if he's back after that.
He's just a gamer, man. Like even if he wasn't 150%, he's going to be 120. I guess that's not bad. That's not really good, that math. But yeah, no, I think Joe Bendik is great in goal for the time being. I think, again, the Union have kind of set themselves up. I'm saying Montreal, no, they do not score this weekend. It's a 2-0 win for the Philadelphia Union on the road, which is not good for Montreal. Let's move on to the next match. Your Nashville, I don't even know if do they have a nickname? I don't think they do. The Nashville SC.
Everyone in.
Everyone in, yes. I always have to remember their hashtags. But yeah, no, Nashville, Jordan, your Nashville are going up against the New England Revolution at Gillette Stadium. Jordan, is there going to be football play? No, I'm kidding. With the Revolution, I think Carles Heel is questionable. Brother Nacho Heel is out. Do you think that the Revs can go and grab a much-needed home win against Nashville? This is a tough one, I think.
It is, because I want to give the Revs credit. They've been playing better than I thought they would. I'll say this is going to be a draw. I'm going to say like 1-1 draw here.
That's a safe bet. Defensively, Nashville have been absolutely stout. No goals given up this season. I'm saying Nashville doesn't give up a goal. I'm saying Carles Heel. I'm going to bet on the fact that he doesn't play. It's a long season. I'm thinking Bruce doesn't play. Carles Heel, after picking up, I think it was, I want to say hamstring, kind of a twinge in his butt. And I don't think he's going to play in this match. I'm going to say Nashville win it 1-0 because while Nashville does score sometimes in bunches, I'm afraid that this is kind of where they start to regress and you start to see like, hey, maybe they do need that number 9. Jacob Schaffelberg has been fantastic, by the way. Add him to your fantasy team. On to the next one is your New York Red Bull, Jordan. I know you like that. Will host the Columbus Crew, 7:30 on MLS Season Pass. Jordan, Wilfred Nancy has got this team playing better than Caleb Porter did, but it's not been all good on that side. Do you think that Columbus Crew can pull out a win, especially traveling to a very tough environment in Red Bull Stadium?
Have you been to Red Bull Stadium? It's not that tough. Nobody shows up anymore. I'm going to go ahead and say that this will be, this is a Crew win.
A Crew win. All righty. Man, have the Red Bulls struggled this season. They're currently sitting in 12th place. They've given up, just 2 goals. Yeah, 2 goals and only scored 1. That's not good 3 matches in. They don't seem like they're going to be the same team in the attack. And Jordan, that's kind of concerning because we had them really high in our predictions. I think you and I had them top 3 at least. I think we had them both 2, sitting 2. So not looking good for our predictions. The Red Bull have not been able to grab goals. I'm thinking the Crew actually pull this one out on the road. I'm going to say a 1-0 win for the Columbus Crew, and the scoring struggles continue to haunt those in New Jersey. Okay, upward, forward. Is that what Ted Lasso says? Okay. NYCFC host the DC United Eagles. I don't know what their logo is, but DC United, Jordan, come into this match looking a lot better with Wayne Rooney at the helm. They currently, Jordan, sit 8th, which is nice. It's a playoff spot. So do you think that the magic can kind of continue? Do you think that DC kind of takes that, one more step forward and progresses this week?
I'll go ahead and say DC win this game.
DC winning.
Yeah, you don't know what their logo is?
What is that?
It's an eagle, bald eagle.
I thought it was an eagle. I said an eagle.
City.
Oh, that's stupid. Oh, I feel stupid now. Gosh,
you should.
I really should. You should. I do. I did say an eagle, but people are probably like, "What an idiot." So those out there listening, you can tweet at us at Jordan Wiegand.
No.
But no, I think watching them play against Orlando last week, I thought that they looked good defensively, which was a concern last year, obviously giving almost a historic rate of goals up. They've looked a lot better, and I think they're getting progressively better and tightened up in the defensive midfield and in the defensive back line. So I think that's a huge thing for them. And then Christian Benteke, he had chances, just couldn't convert them. A lot of sitting headers, a lot of shots in front of goal, just not able to kind of connect. I think DC United actually looked pretty good. I'm going to say that DC United actually stunned NYCFC at NYCFC. I'm going to say it's a 1-0 win for DC United. NYCFC just not really able to find that replacement for Tati Castellanos just yet, but they're still searching. So I guess we'll see. Next up is Orlando City, my Orlando City versus the Jordan's Charlotte FC. And that's going to be held at Exploria Stadium at 7:30. Jordan, I've got a question for you. Charlotte's defense have been awful. Orlando's matching that with an awful attack at the moment. Who gives? Which side gives?
I'll tell you this. I think Charlotte get their first point of the season.
Hey. Are we talking like a 1-1 draw, or are we talking one of those really good stunners of like a 0-0?
Probably a 0-0.
Yeah, I'm thinking so.
Going on here.
All right, so Orlando City, watching them play last night, it just doesn't look good right now. And I think it's just a matter of not playing with each other enough. A lot of passes to empty patches of grass instead of players. Not looking great. Ercha Kara does get a goal last night, but it took a miraculous bicycle kick. If you haven't seen it, check it out over on Stateside Soccer Show. But yeah, no, I think Orlando City actually get the 3 points. I think they finally bust loose, Jordan. I think they're going to grab 2 goals. Yeah, I know, it's wild. 2 goals, 2-0 over Charlotte FC. Their defense has been just so good. They played extremely well at El Volcan against Tigres, stood on their head. Pedro Gallese. Pedro is playing extremely well. He's in top form that I've ever seen him in. So I think they hold him. Toronto, Miami at Toronto. Jordan, injuries have plagued Toronto. Is this when the seat starts to heat up a little bit under Bob Bradley with a Miami team that's going to be missing probably their best player in Gregory?
I don't think it heats up yet, but I do think that they'll make it worse here. I think Miami wins this game.
Yikes. I agree with you. I think Miami's going to cause a lot of problems for Toronto. Defensively, I'm not sold. And that's something they tried to fix with Matt Hedges and Sean Johnson, just haven't got it done. I think Miami actually gets some goals from Joseph this weekend. So he actually looked pretty damn decent in their last match. So I'm excited to see Joseph play. And this one, Jordan, our Chicago Fire host the Cincinnati's. So Jordan, Chicago, not great, really. I mean, Andrew will argue that they are not great.
Better than they could be, right? They have a point on the season. They only have 1 goal on the season as well, but I think that's better that they're not bottom right now, so that's good. But I think Cincy ends up winning this game.
Since he's sitting 3rd in the Eastern Conference, 7 points, I think that they keep pace with Atlanta United and Nashville. I'm going to say Cincinnati win this match against the Fire. I think it's going to get ugly. I think it's going to be a 3-0 win for Cincinnati on the road, which would be a massive 3-0 win if you can go to Soldier Field and play in that cold weather. At least somebody can win in that stadium. So I think that's pretty much all I have to say about Cincinnati. On to the next match, which is I lost my schedule there for a minute. It is Dallas hosting SKC. Sorry, I blanked. Jordan, SKC's struggles have continued into this season. They sit 10th. They currently have 2 draws and a loss. Haven't won one yet. Is this the week that they finally grabbed their first win of 2023?
No, I'll say Dallas wins and SKC still don't score is what I'm going with here.
Yes, one of our other non-scoring teams this season. Luckily, they've only given up 1 goal. Otherwise, it could look real lopsided. The other one, scoreless one, we will talk about here. Actually, you know what? I don't think they play this weekend. Do the Rapids play this weekend? Yes, they do. Okay. But yeah, SKC still haven't scored yet. I don't think they'll score again this game because I think Dallas defensively can hold them off.
I thought you meant ever.
No, ever. Yeah, no. Dallas, I thought, was pretty decent defensively last year. Matt Hedges being lost is not great for them. I think it's kind of taken some time for like Ibiaga to kind of settle into that back 4. But I think that if you're Dallas, you're looking forward to playing at home against a very weak and almost non-factor in SKC. I think SKC are going to continue to not find points, and I think that they're really in danger of not finding the playoffs again this year. So I'm going Dallas 2-0 win against SKC and Peter Vermees's crew. The next match is going to be Houston hosting Austin, Texas. So the Texas Derby, Jordan. A lot to say. Houston, not great. Austin, really kind of disappointing so far. Champions League, MLS, hasn't been easy going as they thought it might have been here in their third year. Jordan, do they finally start to kind of right the ship? They've only had, they've given up 4 goals. They've scored 5. Can they kind of shore up that defense and also put teams away that they should, like Houston?
Yes. Houston has also only scored 1. They've given up 5.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say Austin wins this game probably pretty handedly.
One thing that I will say, and I've kind of been following the situation just because I was interested. It's been one of the storylines that we've talked about over the offseason was Giazzi Zardes being implemented into the Austin attack. Hasn't gone as well. Fans all over him. I will say that they're a little bit more quick to jump the gun over there in Austin. No offense. I just think they're a very passionate group. And Giazzi has not gotten off the schneid yet. He still has 0 goals in 3 matches in plus Champions League. I think there are some concerns there because he's supposed to be that goal scorer. Jordan and I both thought that Sebastian Giroussi probably regressed a little bit just based on the underlying numbers. He wasn't as spectacular as the numbers might have suggested. And I think that's why we thought Austin was going to be really good this year. But we thought, hey, Giazzi's going to add a lot. They're going to get good in that midfield. They're going to create chances. But I guess Jordan didn't really think they were going to be as good as I thought they were. So nice.
I had
Jordan.
Dallas leapfrogging them. Yep.
Yeah. So good call on Jordan's part, but they have not looked great. Violet, the semi-pro team, just bounced them out of the CCL. They're passing balls to the wrong team. It's been kind of ugly. I think Austin gets the win, though, Jordan. Houston is a really bad team. I'm going to say Austin win it 2-0. And just like our preview, we'll give our thoughts. St. Louis City SC. I'm going to start emphasizing the wrong parts of that team just to kind of annoy people. St. Louis, Jordan, host San Jose Quakes at 8:30 on MLS Season Pass. Do you think that they make it 4 for the first time ever in MLS history? An expansion side has won their first 4 matches.
Yes, they will make history.
I agree. I think St. Louis gets the 4-0 win over San Jose.
You have 4-0?
Yeah, let's just go crazy. Okay.
Oh my God. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll say 1-0 here. I think San Jose is shorted up a bit, but you're going to have St. Louis win 4-0. Yeah. I'm writing that down.
Do it. So when I'm right, I can go 4 for 4, But yeah, I think St. Louis, all joking aside, I think they've become a pretty good team in the short span of games that they've had. And I think San Jose really struggled to defend. They've not been good on the road, Jordan. They were abysmal on the road. I think they won 1 match last year away from San Jose, which is not great. So looking forward to seeing what St. Louis do there. I think they make history on Saturday night. 9:30.
Right. They won 1 game, lost 5, and drew 5. Lost 11 and drew 5 away from home last year.
That's not good, right? Like that's bad. Yeah, that's bad. Okay. Jordan shook his head. No, that's bad. Colorado Rapids, the other scoreless team. Jordan, I got a fun question to ask you. Do you think there are, I guess you'd have to go look back at our predictions. Do we think that there's going to be any of them that come off of the scoreless streak? I think we have them all as sitting 0 still.
Who is it? It's SKC. Who else hasn't scored?
Rapids and...
Is it the other team that's not playing this week?
No, it was Montreal.
Oh, yeah, I have Montreal not scoring. I had what's the other team? Kansas City not scoring, and I don't have the Rapids scoring. So, no, I don't have it. I have Minnesota winning this game like 2-0.
Nice. So, yeah, Colorado Rapids will host Minnesota United. Both teams I think, Minnesota's played better than I thought they would without Reynoso.
I will say, though, real quick, Colorado is unbeaten in 6 all-time home games against Minnesota United. So just a little food for thought there.
Fun factoid here, Minnesota United have only played 2 matches, but they only have given up just the 1 goal in those 2 matches. I think that this is a nightmare for the Rapids. It is at home, though, so it might give them a little chance. You know what? Never mind. I'm going to reverse script. I'm going to say the Rapids do get off this night here. I'm going to say that the Rapids draw with Minnesota United 1-1. I'm not going to say it's going to be a barn burner, but I think that it'll be.
And just for clarification here, there's only 2 teams in the history of MLS that have started a season with 4 straight goalless games. That is the 2015 Rapids, all right, and the Toronto in 2007. So if my correction's correct, we could add 3 teams to that list, and it'd be all the 3 teams that are scoreless right now.
SKC, I definitely see obviously not scoring. And Montreal I do too, because I think Philly are that good defensively. The Rapids, again, I think they finally get one because they're at home. But that would still be interesting. 2 teams to add to that list out of the same year. Not great. And then we could have a lot of history made on Saturday night. St. Louis and the 2 scoreless teams. But or 3, depending on what you think. So the last match of the weekend is the LA Galaxy hosting Vancouver at 10:30 on Apple TV Plus. Okay, LA Galaxy, Jordan, have been disappointing as well. They sit 12th currently in the West. They've only
played 2.
Yeah, they played 2 matches because of the snow, but they've allowed 3 goals, only scored 1. Chicharito's still missing time. Is this the week the Rapids? Is this the week the Galaxy finally turn around against a Vancouver team that played somewhat better in CONCACAF?
Yeah, so those first 2 games for LA were on the road. This will be their home opener. They are unbeaten in their last 7 home matches with 4 wins and 3 draws, including the playoffs. So I'm going to go ahead and say yes. I think Galaxy win this game 3-1 before Vancouver has to go and face the other LA team in the Champions League.
Yeah. No, it's not been a good stretch for Vancouver by any stretch of the means. I think LA finally start to get up a little bit here in 2023. I'm going to say that LA win 2-1 against the Vancouver Whitecaps. And I think that Jovic finally scores. I don't think he scored yet this season.
He did. He scored the first goal of the season.
Okay, he did score. I had him on my fantasy team maybe the last week. That's why I didn't, because I don't think he scored then.
Before we go, free games here. Seattle LAFC is free on Apple TV. Toronto Miami at 7:30. Dallas, or as I spelled it, Dolls versus Sporting Kansas City at 8:30. Houston versus Austin at 8:30. Colorado versus Minnesota, and LA Galaxy versus Vancouver.
Jordan, match of the week. Which one are you picking?
It's hard not to go LAFC Seattle. So I think I'd have to go with that. But if you're going to make me pick a different one, not the gimme, I think not to like suck up too much to St. Louis here, but St. Louis San Jose can be a lot of fun, especially with San Jose playing better lately. It's going to be at St. Louis. This is their second home game. So I don't know. I think that game can be a lot of fun, and it's going to be one I definitely have like my eye on Saturday.
Yeah, that's a good one. There's a lot of interesting matchups just because there's a lot of unknown for some of these teams that are playing against one another. I think if I had to pick, honestly, I guess I'd pick, the gimme's the easy one. But I guess if I had to pick another, and it wasn't St. Louis either, you took mine. Let's go ahead. I'm going to go with Toronto and Miami, and only because I think this is a really telling game for Bob Bradley. Yes, I know Insigne is probably not going to – I don't think he's going to play. I think they said he had a setback, so it's been 3 weeks.
He's going to miss another 3 or 4 games.
Yeah, so that's massive. I think that the longer that this goes on, the worst case scenario for Toronto. If you do not make the playoffs in a 9-team playoff and you are on a warm seat, then I guarantee you'd be fired pretty quickly. So I think that this could get really uneasy if he loses here against a Miami team that's had a huge loss in their midfield. So this could not be good for Toronto.
You talk about a warm seat. I'm sure it's all what St. Louis fans are going to want to sit on this weekend here.
Yes. So that's our show. Thanks for my first hosting gig, Jordan. This was a lot of fun. My throat hurts now, so I might have to go take some I don't know what you do for sore throats, but NyQuil, Dayquil, something. But yeah, no, thanks for watching. Thanks for joining. If you liked what you heard from Ball Watching, make sure to go follow them. A great St. Louis City podcast. If you have not found them already, I'm sure you have if you're a St. Louis fan. We will be back, I guess, either we'll be recording Sunday or Monday, probably Monday, live. Yeah, Monday live, right? You're not out of town yet. Yeah, you're here.
No, I should be good.
Okay. Look for the live episode on Monday where we'll be recapping the match day 4 results and see what happened, see how many scoreless teams there are, see if St. Louis City finally broke some history that we've all been kind of anticipating since they won their game last week. But other than that, thanks for watching. You can follow us along at Stateside Show over on Twitter, or of course you're on YouTube. We are on YouTube, so if you want to see these gorgeous faces and see how many times Jordan can successfully break into Subaru Park without them noticing. But yeah, no, if you want to follow us along, give us a follow. We really appreciate the support so far, and we will see you guys next